Welcome back to the Happy Hippie Podcast. This might be one of the most requested episodes that I have been getting for almost a year. And not only am I answering it myself, but I'm honored to have one of my favorite people that I've ever met, one of my good friends, my friend Kate Babineau, here to answer all of your questions, all things Hawaii, everything about living there, everything about the work trade that we did together, about our journey, the area itself. Everything is being answered in this episode for you, finally in one place. If you are new here, my name is Amanda McCormack. I am the host of the Happy Hippie Podcast. This podcast aims to explore all the areas in life that contribute to bringing us greater happiness. So we take deep dives into wellness topics, different products, different methods, different mindsets to help you feel better mentally, physically, and spiritually. We talk about things from health and fitness to meditation and mindset, exploring different types of supplements, books for productivity, and even talking about astrology. So we cover a broad scope of topics here on this podcast. And if you like the episode, make sure to give us 5 stars because it really does help with everything that we're doing for this podcast. This conversation that we have today, Kate and I, is so inspiring. I loved it so much, and I think it was the perfect and most divine way that I could have put out all the information I wanted to. I've been getting tons of questions about Hawaii, living there, working there, the work trade I did, and 1 second backstory is last year I did go out there for a work trade and I ended up getting a job. So I still work for the company in Hawaii and I kind of go back and forth between Hawaii and New York, and there's a whole bunch of stuff with it, but we answer all your questions about how we got into it, going alone, we both went alone, all about living off-grid in the middle of the jungle, our advice, the challenges, the lessons we learned, stories from other people. Tons of the questions that were sent in on Instagram were morphed and kind of welded into this episode. But first, let me tell you a little bit about Kate so we know you know what you're getting into. So Kate Babineau, she's awesome. She's doing her own podcast soon as well. When it comes out, I will have it linked in this bio, ready to click on that link. And this episode will also be on her show as well. So she's a college student and she is a psych major who has a passion for holistic healing and therapy. And I'm not just saying this because this is an intro, but Kate is truly one of the best articulated people I know. Like, she speaks so well about topics I think can be really hard to digest sometimes, and she's able to just like construe them into like the perfect sentence, and she's so relatable, and it's like glows, like, you know, those people, you know, that just glow, like that's Kate. And she's funny too, so it's a good conversation. It's awesome to go back and forth with her and just like relive some of our experiences. We have some funny stories that we'll go into, but I just feel like so many insights come up, and we also learned a lot of lessons from other people around us, so tried to carry those lessons in this episode to represent those people and the stories and the beauty that they bring to the world. So grab yourself some tea, buckle in, and this is our dish episode, I guess, on Hawaii, work trade, spirituality, living life, and just I hope you get something out of this. So without further ado, here's Kate. Okay, we are live.
Yeah, baby.
We got Kate and Amanda in the studio.
Yeah, we do. What a dynamic duo this is.
We're going to dish on everything that we experienced going up to Hawaii, the actual work trade, things we learned, people we met, all of that jazz. So we're going to go back and forth, introducing each other, talking a little bit about all that, and answering questions. So, yeah, Kate, if you want to go first.
Yeah, I feel like I'll just start by saying a little bit about me and kind of what led me to Hawaii. So I'm 21 years old. For anyone who doesn't know, I'm a senior at Holy Cross in Worcester, Massachusetts. And I had been drawn to Hawaii, honestly, in full honesty, from Hannah Maloche. So I follow her on YouTube, and I watched her go to Hawaii, and I was like, that looks amazing. Like, I want to do that. So that was kind of always in the back of my mind. And then I would say like 2 years ago, I was talking to my friend Asa, who I get Reiki from, and I was just expressing like, oh, I really want to go to Hawaii. I'm not sure like how I'll go. I looked into like nannying, working there. I didn't care what I was doing there. I just wanted to go. And she was like, have you ever looked into doing a retreat there? And I was like, jaw on the floor. Oh my God, no, that sounds absolutely incredible. And so she was like, I could post on my Instagram and like ask my followers and friends like if they know of any place. So she like did a poll on her Instagram and was like, does anybody know of a place in Hawaii to do a retreat? And she got several replies, and so she sent them to me, and KMEC, which is where Amanda and I met, stood out to me. One of her friends went there. So then I started doing research, diving in, all that jazzeroonie, and I applied my junior year spring. I didn't tell my parents because I was kind of like, if I get in, I'll just pay for it and go. Like, I'm 20 years old. They can't really control me. But turns out they still can control me. And so I got in. Well, not got in. I don't know if you would say that. But, like, I was about to do my interview. I was over the moon. Like, it really just felt so much in alignment. And I feel like a really big, like, mission of mine recently is to just live in alignment and live and do things that feel right for me. So I was super excited, and then kind of just told my parents, like, I'm going to Hawaii. And they're like, no, you're not. And so then I just, long story short, I wrote them a bunch of essays and did not work out. I was absolutely fucking devastated. Like, this is what I had set my heart on. I had no backup plan. I had no job for the summer. I was like, and this was when I was out of school, so this was like end of May. And I was going to leave for Hawaii in 2 weeks, and then, no, you're not. So it was honestly
close?
a huge, it was, yes.
Oh,
like,
God.
I had finished finals. I was home. I was about to do the interview. I remember I was at the hair salon, and I was emailing, I think it was Sylvia, and I was like, can I interview, like, as soon as possible? Like, I just want to get there. And so I was trying to go and leave June 1st. But that didn't work out, and now, as the beautiful universe tends to work out, now I see why it didn't happen, because I would not have met Amanda, I would not have met Kayla, I would not have met Amar or Rachel or literally any of the most beautiful people that I met when I was in Hawaii this past summer. So it all worked out for a reason. And then, Cliff Note version, my junior year, I meant to say I applied the end of my sophomore year, because last year, my junior year, was honestly like one of the hardest years of my life at school. I was arrested in the fall, and basically for holding an open container, which is a whole other story that I will talk about. What?
My senior year.
You're kidding.
I had to go to court.
Me too.
Yeah, literally open container.
Wait, this is insane. Why have we never talked about this?
Yeah.
Anyways, I grew up with a very, like, predominant, controlling, harsher energy from, like, my father growing up, so this kind of felt very similar of just, like, having that authority bring me down, and it honestly sent me into a spiral. I didn't feel like I had, like, the time to really process it. So last year I was just really in the dumps. I was going through hormone shit. I was on and off different birth controls. I just honestly, like, it felt harder than when I was, like, knee deep in my eating disorder, because at least, like, when I was in my eating disorder, like, I knew how to get myself out of there. Like, I had my therapist, like, tell me these steps, and I could do that. This felt like nobody can pull me out of here but myself. And obviously going to a very academically rigorous school, like, I didn't have a lot of space to really process or, like, sit and, like, be with myself. I was honestly surviving all of last year. And then towards the end of last spring, I wasn't sleeping. I would sleep, like, one hour a night. Like, my body was just completely off the fucking rails. I had acne, like, just so many imbalances that I just kept, like, shoving under the rug, which I feel like we can get into. I just want to make this short about Hawaii. But anyways, I was like, I just feel like I need Hawaii. Like, and we can get into this too, but I was like, I'm going to go to Hawaii. I'm just going to be fixed. My problems will be gone. I'll be back to myself. And I know we're going to talk more about our experience in Hawaii, but obviously that was not the case. You know, like, wherever you go, you will also be there. So the problems did not go away. They actually heightened there, which was, like, for a reason. But yeah, I went to Hawaii last summer for almost 2 months, and it was such a catalyst in my life. Seriously, such a beautiful catalyst. So that's, like, a little summary of kind of what led me to Hawaii.
I love that, though. Especially,
Yeah.
Sometimes we think we can control things, and I find it's a theme that comes up a lot. And we're like, oh, we'll fix it by going here, or we'll control it in a different way. But
Totally.
And it's so good. I think this will come up too, but it's so good when you don't want to face the challenge sometimes. And I remember hearing a quote that, like, instead of going through the obstacles are actually the way through.
Yes.
So we'll try everything to go around them, and then our bodies will literally show us we're in a state of resistance.
Totally.
The physical things, like stuff happening on your body, like I experienced the same thing with like the acne or like your energy levels, your hair, like things like that.
Literally.
And then like the manifestation of events that are occurring around you, it's because you're in that like resistance state. But
100%.
Not only myself, but other people I spoke to who went to Hawaii all had a similar experience. Like we were trying to either escape something or we were just on our journey, like you're on your spiritual journey. And I feel like Hawaii heightens things, at least that island. Like
I mean, I was going to get into this later, but I feel like this is a good point. Like the fucking, and then I want to hear about what led you to Hawaii, but like the fucking energy of the Big Island, like I've never felt anything like this where it's like what you need to heal, this island will literally hand you on a silver fucking platter. Like,
yeah.
I thought I was healed from my eating disorder. Oh, that was fine. Nope, that was resurfaced like times 5. I remember like I still talked to my therapist there, and there was a day where I literally just sobbed, and I was like, I don't know how much longer I can do this. Like, I feel like I am just like a guinea pig on a hamster wheel, and like the universe is not giving me a break. And now I understand, like, I had to be cracked open, and I feel like being in Hawaii, like I remember sitting in the meditation hall and just like existing and feeling and crying and writing in my journal like all these deepest, darkest, heavy thoughts. And like leaving Hawaii, I definitely felt like the healing that I did there carried with me and like was there, what happened for a reason. But yeah, I've literally never experienced the Reiki energy that I felt there, the connect, like my dreams, everything. I felt like I wasn't on planet Earth.
No, same. That's kind of how I think I ended up there, because it wasn't on my radar at all. But I do want to go back to the topic of like the pull that island has, and like it's for good. Like the stuff that comes up and you're supposed to see, it's not like bad energy. It's supposed to heal you. You have to go through the like the dark phases to come out. But yeah, very, very similar, which kills me because I feel like everything you're saying, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to say the same thing.
No, it's beautiful. Because even if it's the same, I feel like we'll have different experiences of it.
Yeah, but get this. So I've always wanted to visit Hawaii, and I knew I wanted to do it in more of like an ethical way. So I think that's why I went the way I went about it, like a work trade or looking into something to help the land. But I love Lexi Hidalgo. And that's literally... Yes, bitch. Yes, dude. It's like the same group of people. I loved her stuff. I love the idea that like she just went out there as like a single person. And I was like, that's so inspiring. And I've done some solo travel, but I don't know. Something about that. Like I'd always... Her story would come up so high up on my thing because I was always looking at the scenery. I was drawn to Oahu. I thought that was it. I thought I was going to Oahu, and that's the island I've spent the least amount of time at the end of the day. And there was another girl I followed who worked at a farm in the North Shore, and it looked like the funnest place. It was like a family-owned farm that you would do projects for them. Like they built a pizza oven out of scratch in the backyard, and they had like a little, it was so cute. So I applied there, never heard back. To this day, they never responded to me.
No, I feel that with Woof. I went on Woof and I applied to like 10 people, and they were like no, or like never got back to me. So yeah.
Yeah. So I applied to that one place, and then my friend Dave, which we'll get into him in the episode too. Shout out to Dave.
Love Dave.
I met Dave. Okay, so a few things in my life, including this, I've taken really crazy leaps for myself. They're small leaps, but I had such social anxiety and I had to force myself to do things, but I'm so glad I did because they were all like catalysts. So an example was I followed this influencer online. He did travel meetups, and there was a meetup in New York City, and I don't even live in Manhattan. I'm like outside of Manhattan. So it was like, it was a Tuesday night or something like that. And I was like, you know what? F it. I want to make more people, like more friends or more connections with people who enjoy the things that I like. And it's so scary. I was like, I have to get on a train. It was right after COVID too, so everybody was just like on edge, you know? So, and going to the city was still like a whole big ordeal. And I was like, I don't want to go on the subway. People were getting stabbed. It was like a stabbing epidemic. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. So I got on the subway and I went to this place. It was a bar, and I was standing outside, like, pacing. I'm like, I don't want to go in. I don't want to go in. I ended up going in. I met a group of people, and Dave was one of them. They were all Leos, and I'm a Leo, so that's crazy.
Wow.
We met because we were taking a group picture, and there was, like, 5 of us that stood on tables so that you could, like, really see us in the photo.
Yeah.
And then we found out we were all Leos, and I was like, oh, this makes sense.
You're like, thank you, universe. Oh,
so I made friends with them, and then Dave was one of them, and we met up a few times, and like 2 months later, we were talking about where we wanted to go, and we both mentioned Hawaii, and I said the thing about the farm. I was like, this girl is on this coolest farm in Oahu, and I want to visit. And he kept a spreadsheet with like 100 different places on all the islands that we could go to.
What?
We were doing it for 2 months, collecting places. I joined Woof. Actually never ended up using it, just used it to like search. We were weighing like the best hours, the worst hours. We found a nudist colony at one of them.
What the?
Yeah, we didn't go. I think it was Oahu.
Holy shit. Wait, did you end up going to Oahu during your journey?
Yeah, just like a quick visit.
Okay.
And I've flown there. I've been in that airport so many times. And then I did maybe like 5 days in total.
Okay.
Yeah. I did a car. Like, I rented an RV, and I went around with 2 people that I met at KMAC, which is another story.
Wait, I think you told me about this. And the dog, the person. Yes, yes.
The dog. Yeah. That was great. We were squished in a bed, and I woke up in the middle of the night, like in a car, and my friend had a dog, and I woke up, and his balls were on my face, and I was like, ah! It was rough, but it was fun. But yeah, and then me and Dave were keeping track for 2 months, and then he stopped answering, and I bought a flight. I was dead set on Oahu, so I bought a flight to California, to Hawaii, and I visited my friend in California for a few days to like break it up. But when I booked the flights, I'm going to Oahu, and then like Dave wasn't answering, and it was like a month until I was supposed to go, and I was like, he was traveling and doing stuff.
Oh,
but I booked the flight
did you guys
thinking
book it together?
No.
Oh.
He was like he was like pressing me to get this flight, so I got the flight, and then he fell off the radar, and I was like, oh my God, now I have a flight. It was a one-way. I had a one-way to Hawaii and no plans. So then I started like crack the knuckles, like crunch time on the computer. I was like, I have to find a place to go, and I was really pushing for Oahu, and it was like that resistance thing I was saying. The more I was like, I have to go here, I have to do this, the more like I couldn't find anything. I was not finding anything.
Well, yeah. It's like it feels like almost when you wear blinders, and it's like you focus so much on this one thing that you don't even see everything else that's like being presented to you.
Totally. There was so many other opportunities, or like I could have gone somewhere else. Anyway, I found I was a member of Yoga Trade, which I recommend, and we have some questions about work trades that we'll answer later. But Yoga Trade is one of my favorite tools. You don't have to be a yoga teacher to be on it, but you can find work trades related to like yoga, spirituality, a lot of vegan centers, all of that on that website. So it's a great resource. I searched and I found this one listing, and it makes sense, but it wasn't updated for 2 years. So I didn't even know if they were accepting, but I reached out, and Zach, who was working there at the time, emailed me in like an hour. Which is never a good thing when somebody emails you that quick. I was like, they really need people. I was like, what's going on?
They're so desperate, yeah. Yeah, that's
but he
so
said,
true.
I had my flight. My flight was literally Friday, a week out. This is how late I did it too. Literally a week out. And he was like, you know what? We have one opening next Friday. And this guy was leaving. Like they do it on who at that point there were so many people there because it was like a place where you volunteer. There's probably like 14 volunteers in January, so they had no room, and he was leaving Friday, and my flight to Oahu was on Friday. So then I just booked a connecting flight, obviously, to like Big Island, but Yeah, that's how I ended up there. So I feel like the island really pulled me in. Not to sound
totally.
like too like woo, but
No, honestly, I feel like we have to embrace the woo-woo. Like, well, I feel like I had a Reiki session yesterday, and it was just a lot of confirmation of, like, my dreams and just, like, the psychic ability that we literally all have. And I had a seminar class before this, and my professor and, like, people were like, oh, Reiki's, like, fake or whatever, basically subtweeting at that. And I was like, oh, okay, but it's not. Anyways, but I feel like it's all energy. Everything's energy. But I think this is a good place to, like, kind of, maybe you can do this better than I can, but just, like, explain KMAC and, like, what it is, because I even know when I tell people about it, they're like, okay, so, like, did you stay there? Like, did you pay there? I feel like it would be helpful to, like, explain them as, like, a company or, yeah.
So the reason I looked into doing this type of work trade was because I love the aspect of community. So basically a work trade, period, is where you're looking to trade your skills for accommodation and amenities. So it's a way that you can travel affordably, but also with a purpose. So it's almost like a chance to give back to a cause that you like. You can work at restaurants, hotels, but this was a retreat center. So the purpose of KMAC, it stands for Kirpal Meditation and Ecological Center. It's a piece of property, and there's about 20 cabins that guests can rent. So if you go on Airbnb or any of those websites, you can rent out a cabin. And we also host retreats. So yoga teacher trainings, retreats for massage therapists, things like that. It's a working retreat center, but it's off-grid. So we're located in the middle of the jungle. We run on rainwater. We have catchment tanks and then solar power. So we're completely off-grid. We're vegan. We used to be gluten-free, but now we're not. But it's a vegan chef, and basically they need help with all the departments. So thinking about the departments that would take to run a retreat center, we have the hospitality department, which is like making beds, cleaning up, taking care of the bathrooms, and welcoming guests. Like, that's one department. The next department, we have a head chef, but he needs like a sous chef. So you would step in and you would help cut the veggies, make the tea. We do 3 meals a day. So you would like help in those. And then we also, the name is an ecological center, and part of the attraction is we have a huge orchard, and we get all of our food, like we're pretty self-sustainable. We do use, we get some food imported but it's usually local. But we grow our own food. So we need to take care of that. And we have a garden manager and a grounds manager. So you would help them with projects as well, such as planting tomatoes, mulching, cutting coconuts.
I painted a sign. Yeah, cutting coconuts, painting.
I painted
cutting,
a sign.
Yeah,
but
same.
You can find things that work.
Totally.
And then the last department would be being a teacher for yoga or meditation, because we run classes daily. So you could do yoga, you could be a meditation teacher. We had Pilates in there at times. Cool. So those are the 4 departments. You sign up for this work trade. You get to stay on their property. It's usually about a month or 2 long. And you have to work 25 hours a week for them in exchange for the room, and then you get the food, you get access to the yoga classes. This particular work trade, you pay a small fee, just quote-unquote tuition. It's used for groceries, basically, so we can feed everybody. But other work trades, you don't have to usually pay a fee. Well, some do, but that's like the rundown of what it is. 25 hours of work a week, 2 days off consecutively. So if you wanted to, you could do a little weekend trip. And it's usually about a 1 month to 2 month commitment. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I also feel like, I guess people always ask me what I did. So when Amanda was actually in charge of making the schedule, and you would do usually 2.5 hour shifts in a different department, and you would work basically in each department by the end of your 5 days, so you weren't just in one area. Or if some people were, if they had a specialty in the garden, they would ask to just be primarily in the garden, but I was all over. And I guess I could just tell everyone a typical day in my life. That's what I feel like a lot of people like to know. So also we stayed in cabins, as Amanda said, and the time that I was there was not that many volunteers, so I had my own cabin with like a divider in between. And then Rachel, shout out Rachel, was next to me.
Rachel.
But I know that if there's like more people, then you'll have a roommate as well. But basically, it kind of depended on the shifts I was on, but I wasn't usually on breakfast. So I'd usually wake up, do some type of movement, yoga class, or do my own little Peloton app. Love the Peloton app. Then breakfast, I think was, if I can remember, it was at like 8:30.
Mm-hmm. The shift was literally 7 a.m., but we served at 8:30.
Yeah. So and then I would go to breakfast, and then I'd usually be on like housekeeping. So then after breakfast, I would meet with Teresa, our head of housekeeping, and ask her what she needed me to do that day. And that could be anything from cleaning out a guest cabin, making the beds, sweeping the floors, to doing laundry, cleaning the bathrooms, all that stuff. She would just tell me what she needed to be done, and I would do it. And then lunch shift was around 11:30 to 1, I think, right? And then, so I'd go to lunch, and then say I was like on grounds, then I would work in the garden. So some things I did in the garden was like, I planted spinach, which I've never done. Like, I've never experienced gardening. That's just not how I was raised. So it was super cool and hard and dirty, and like flies were everywhere. But honestly, it was cool to like break out of that version of myself that's like super clean, super like pristine, and everything's the same. So I just embraced it. Met some really cool. I met a really cool guy in the garden that time. I forget his name. He was there a lot. I think do you know who I'm talking about?
Ooh. Oh, the beard?
No, he was young. He was also doing a work trade, but at a different farm, and then he would come.
Yeah, it was the guy's assistant with the beard.
Yes.
I can't think of his name.
Yeah.
He was cool.
But
yeah.
He was so cool. Like, I remember sitting there, we were just like talking about our inner child and talking about being in the present moment, which I'm going to come back to. But yeah, then I would do my shift, and then dinner, and then there's like a lot of activities in the town closest to us. So sometimes we would like go to the beach or anything really that you wanted to do. Walk down to the hot ponds. It's like a half a mile walk from the property, and then have dinner. Sometimes we'd watch a movie at night, hang out. Amanda and I watched Daisy Jones and the Six, but don't tell anyone because we're not allowed to use the Wi-Fi for that kind of stuff.
To stream.
Yeah, like in my cabin, like no service, no Wi-Fi. I remember I would drive to Kalani to download my Netflix shows and then watch them because there was like no service. But I feel like what I just wanted to add about like when I met that guy in the garden, like the people that it was so cool to be in Hawaii because this part of myself that this journey that me and you are both on, like, is such a big part of me now. And, like, it just feels like what I'm here for. I don't know. Like, this spiritual journey, I feel like when I started it 3 years ago, like, it just took the ground running. And so it was really cool to, like, be in a community of people who are also so like-minded. I think,
agree.
like, it was remarkable. Like, one of my favorite moments, and I know that this answers like one of the questions about like a memorable experience there. One of my favorite experiences was one night we were all sitting around, and I don't know if I should use names, but I'm not going to use names, but one of the other volunteers was like very upset and was just like processing a lot of emotions. I remember a guest came and she was like, I don't cry, but I cry every day here. And I'm like, yeah, that like is the Big Island. Like literally in Kamek, like you don't cry, come here, you'll cry every day. But I don't see crying as a bad thing. I honestly see it as such a beautiful thing. And so one of the volunteers was very upset and just processing like things that were being brought up for her. And even speaking about it just like makes my heart so full. Like I remember another volunteer like went and sat with her and like was really comforting her. And then I remember I noticed like a lot, I was activated by seeing her so upset. So then I went over and like was standing by the tree and like was doing some strategies that I do to like release emotions. I was like shaking, I was like leaning against the tree, I started to cry, all this stuff. And then another volunteer walked over to me and she was like a mother figure to me, and like seriously just is love in human form. And she hugged me and I just started to sob, and it felt like my heart had been held and like loved, like this deep young part of myself that when I was young and upset, all a kid wants to do is like be hugged and held. And it felt like her hugging me now was like hugging every past version of myself that didn't receive that. And I really can't describe it other than like my heart felt like it had been like there was an ice around it and like defrosted. And then after, yeah, and then I started crying even more because it was such a new experience. I was like, oh my God, like all my problems are solved like by this hug. Like all I really was craving was like comfort and like to be held in what I was going through. And then I remember I came back and like sat at the table, and then me and the volunteer who was upset earlier just like hugged and talked about it. And I'm in a group therapy, which is like absolutely phenomenal. And we kind of do this stuff where like somebody will bring themselves in, process whatever they're feeling in the moment, and then everybody will be like, okay, this is what I'm feeling. And it's kind of just a really cool space to like think out loud and support each other. And so I had experience with that, but doing it in person in Hawaii with people who just like know what you're doing when you are like somatically shaking and leaning against a tree, like, and people like don't look at you and they're like, what the fuck is she doing? Like I literally, like my house is in Worcester, and like I ground, I sit by the tree, and like people walk by and are probably like, what is this bitch doing? But like in Hawaii it was like clapping, like this is beautiful. So honestly that was one of my favorite nights because it was such like a beautiful human experience. Like we were all just being so real and holding each other in that, and it was wonderful.
When you said that, the word human is what came to me when you were like, yes. She hugged me, and I was like, that's so human. And I think that's one of the things. So in a community setting where there's like-minded people, and then if you step out a little bit further, I'll talk about it later, but the area of Hawaii that we were in was a very spiritual community. So things like this were just like everywhere. You could find Reiki sessions and sound healings like every day. So that was wonderful. And it, for me at least, it made me feel less crazy when I got there.
Yes.
Because like you're saying, you just feel very accepted. It's very easy to talk about topics, living with people who are into what you enjoy. So that kind of brings me to a question, a two-part question. What were the highlights of living in a community? And maybe what were some things that were challenging or that you didn't expect? It could be lessons you learned. Just highlighting the scale of living in a community with like-minded people that can challenge you, or, yeah.
Totally. Wait, I also want to add like about the community around us. Like I remember there's this beach, and it was like this nude beach, and everyone at this beach was like doing breath work, like climbing on rocks, just like, and I remember sitting there and being like, this is so beautiful to see these souls just be themselves. It was so refreshing, and it honestly inspired me to be more
so
myself.
Inspiring.
So inspiring. Like I literally can't even describe it. Like to just see everyone be themselves and not give a fuck what anybody thinks.
Totally.
And just to sit there naked, do their breath work, or like just do whatever. And I feel like even that about ecstatic dance, like ecstatic dance was spiritual therapy healing. But honestly, for me, living in community, I learned so much from everyone around me. Like Amar, he was one of the volunteers. I learned immensely just from his wisdom and his experience on his spiritual journey and through like meditation and stuff. So I definitely like
hold on, my dog's barking. Okay, I'll cut that. Sorry.
Okay. I honestly, I learned a lot from people, and I also learned that like, so I think something I'm also going through right now is like, a pattern of mine is when I feel overwhelmed and feel emotions, I tend to isolate myself, and that can feel lonely, and at the same time it feels comfortable because it's familiar, but it doesn't serve me anymore. So I think living in Hawaii and community, I learned that maybe I don't want to be alone, and like being with the right people right now like actually feels really good. So that was like, I think something that I really enjoyed learning. You know, challenges, like my mind wants to say like being with people all the time was like hard with boundaries, but I honestly don't feel that way. I feel like there was a really good balance between like everyone at KMEC was there for their own reason. Like, everyone traveled alone. So, like, everybody came here on their own to, like, do their own stuff. So I feel like there was a good balance between, like, I'm going to, like, have my me time, and then I'm going to come together and, like, do this activity together, which is something I personally need. Like, I need a balance. Like, last night, it's Halloween weekend, okay? Last night, I was like, I can't go out. Like, if I go out tonight and maybe tomorrow, like, I can't do 3 nights. And I've just learned that about myself. But so anyways, I just need that balance. And I feel like I definitely had that.
I respect that so much. You and Rachel did a lot and taught that to me when I was over there.
Yeah.
Like, that, when you were talking about it, I was like, that's one of the things I think is, like, seeing how people live and
yes.
the things they bring up. Boundaries was, like, our theme. Like,
yes,
not letting people cross your boundaries.
It was so beautiful. Like, I don't mean to interrupt you. I just get very excited. So
no,
I apologize. But, like, I just remember, like, the conversations me and Rachel had were, like, so vulnerable and so open. Like, we would be like, honestly, like, I'm not feeling this right now. Or, like, honestly, like, this upset me. And, like, that shit is what I live for. So I just, like, appreciate that about you and, like, our relationship. Because I feel like we were very open.
And when you have people doing it around you, it reinforces the idea that you can do it. I just feel like maybe it might be an East Coast thing, but growing up, everything is very, like, you keep it to yourself, you just keep walking. Like, it can go into a lot of things. Like, for me, even, like, I went to Catholic school, so many things were ingrained in me to, like, push it down, don't express,
same,
whatever. But when people are constantly letting you know their boundaries, and, like, they're saying, like, actually, no, I don't want to go, or it's more of a me night, it's so inspiring, because I feel like as a recovering people pleaser,
yep,
I'm like, wow, it's the norm. And I feel like these types of experiences help you with these things so much, because even I thought I was over people pleasing, and I feel like a theme that came up for me in Hawaii was an old pattern of validation and people pleasing. Like, I would go out of my way to do things for people, or I'd only literally show up for, like, some sort of subconscious form of validation I wasn't even recognizing. It came up in my journaling. I was like, oh, damn. But yeah, it was like these patterns. So I was seeing that, and I was feeling, like, burnt out at times, and it was so refreshing that when people around you, it's like the opposite of, like, a Dare commercial, when people around you are, like, drinking and doing drugs when you're younger, and you're supposed to, like, you're not supposed to go with the flow. It's the opposite. Like, everyone's so inspiring. It makes you want to, like, better yourself. And I don't know. I just feel like seeing people use these tools on a day-to-day basis was so inspiring to me, because it makes you reflect on yourself. And I feel like I got a lot of growth. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And, like, I feel like everyone, I'm sure you've heard this, like, everyone's a mirror. So it's like what you see someone else doing and, like, you love, it's like, because you probably want to be doing that for yourself too. And I just would love, what do you mean by, like, this, you were going for, like, subconscious validation and it came up in your journaling? Like, I want to know more about that.
Yeah. Okay. So I think one of my lifelong patterns that when I was in high school, I feel like I didn't get a lot of validation with things. I always felt left out, which stems from, like, childhood bullying, but it carries on. So I felt like a lot of the things I would do in college was to people please, and I would do a lot of things just to almost get, like, a little validation for my self-worth. So, like, to have people say, oh, thank you for that, or, like, you're so this, you're that, whatever. And I felt that was coming up again. And I felt a lot of college patterns that I thought I ended at, like, 19, 20 have been, like, dormant, like a literal volcano, if you want to use that. Since you're, like, Pele was like, boom. And it started coming up again.
Day,
I feel like my journey, 'cause I spent about 8 months out there straight, and the first, like, 3 months were different from the 3 in the center, and then, like, the 2 at the end, pretty much. I don't know if I did the math right on that. But in the middle, I went through, like, something where I noticed, like, I was going out of my way for other people, and I wasn't giving myself, like, rest, or, like, I wasn't staying in. I was having, like, FOMO, because I thought if I didn't go to these things, like, people would be upset, or people's perception of me would be different, Or
Totally.
I felt like in the beginning, man, like I was just wearing like my garden clothes. And then I found in the middle, I went through this phase where I started caring about my appearance again. And I just went through this, like, I don't know. I haven't felt that way since I was 19. I thought I squashed that pattern, and it kind of came up, which is why I love 2 months later the boundaries thing coming up and helping me realize, like, oh my gosh, wait, I'm slipping into something. I was becoming less present. I was becoming consumed with a lot of things, and I felt like I was just dipping my toe in everything, and I wasn't caring for myself. Meanwhile, every morning I was teaching yoga, and I was preaching, like, care for yourself, do these things. And then I needed to take a step back, and I feel like I was able to do that through the community, through conversations with you and Rachel and Kayla and anybody who came in at that time. Like my friend Katrina too, who was there like the month before. I just felt like, and to this day still, I feel like everybody was supposed to meet everybody that was there.
100%.
I learned something from everybody.
100%. That's why I feel like I couldn't go the year I wanted to, because I wouldn't have met any of these people I was supposed to. And I think it's cool that the boundaries came up at the end of your stay, because maybe that's like what you were there to learn. And yeah, I guess like maybe explain a little bit about like how you ended up there for 8 months. And like, I know that wasn't like your original plan. So I think it'd be cool to talk about that.
Yeah, definitely. And I also feel, based on what we just said too, I'm going back in like 4 days. I feel like I should mention that on the show.
Yeah.
Like I'm going back, and I'm so happy that things turned out the way they did, because I feel like the lessons I learned in June and July really changed me during these past 3 months, which I want to dig into in a little bit for both of us, like what we took from it. But I feel like I'm going back into it totally different, like so different.
You feel different
than I was in June. I feel, and it's what I needed. I needed to be there. I needed to come back. I needed to go on the travels I went on in between and deal with those things. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Definitely.
dude. Your trip, the trip you were just on looked amazing.
That was another scenario. It was a literal retreat where I met a community, and I learned so much from those people. Anyone who's listening, I truly recommend, coming from someone that had severe social anxiety. I'm literally afraid of planes. I'm like on a plane every week. I hate them. I get so anxious in airports, around people, everything. And I still push myself to do it because it shapes my life every time.
Totally. And I feel like, I know one of the questions is like advice to give someone who is like thinking about going on a work trade. I think if you have the idea and you have the dream, like it's something that you want to do. And like, I really believe that, like, if you have the impulse, it's there for a reason. And I know that fear can, like, try to pull us away from that. But I hope that we can inspire you and, like, support you and let you know that it is totally possible. And, like, sometimes I like to do, like, worst case scenario, like, you come home. I mean, not saying that's going to happen, but I think sometimes that, like, helps my anxiety, even with, like, going to a party. It's like, do I want to go? And I'm like, if I go and it's boring and I'm not having fun and I'm not feeling it, I can leave. Like, I'm not trapped. We are not stuck anywhere. And I think another part that I've really been trying to do is just, like, welcome the fear, like, welcome the anxiety, and really just try to get to know it, give love to it, and then remember you have choice. You don't need to listen or attach to that fear and anxiety. Like, I think it's cool if you, like, separate yourself from it.
I love that so much. It reminds me of, have you read Gabby Bernstein?
No.
Oh, so good. The Universe Has Your Back. First book to read.
Okay.
And then Super Attractor. Those are two great books. And she has a method called the Choose Again method, because whenever feelings come up, sometimes we try to push them away and just do almost like the toxic positivity of being like, everything's all good.
Totally. Like, I'm fine. I'm not nervous. Like, I'm cool. Everything's,
sometimes it's like, you actually have to feel that emotion. Feel into it. Even if it's like...
Yes.
Like, even if it's... Nobody wants to feel into it. I don't want to feel into it. But if you feel into it, let that kind of move through you. See where you feel it in your body. What comes up. Journal it. Speak to someone. Bring it up. Then you can choose. So it's like... You can't skip over the feeling. The way to get through the feeling is the feeling. And then
feel it
you
to
can
heal it.
choose the next best feeling. You can change that mindset, shift the perspective.
I agree.
But I feel like it's a 2-step process.
I mean, even like, I'll be honest with like the podcast, I was like waiting to start because I wanted everything to be perfect. And I was really just caving into those feelings and those beliefs. And then I had a therapy session and I was telling my therapist this, and she was kind of like, it will never be perfect. Like, that is kind of just like postponing like something that you're so excited to do. But I couldn't have just been like, yeah, I'm excited, and kept going, because that's not how I was excited, but like it would have been not truthful for me to say like, I feel like everything's ready, because I had a lot of fear and a lot of limiting beliefs and like a lot of like, I'll wait until this happens and then I'll like get started. But also, that's not how I want to show up in my podcast. Like, I don't want everything perfect, doesn't exist. So I don't want to like show up and be perfect, because that's not possible. But I guess what I'm trying to say is like, I wouldn't even be in this moment if I didn't welcome and like just hold space and like let those feelings and those thoughts be there. Because now, once I've welcomed them, I feel like I can like take control of my life again, rather than like they're controlling my life, if that makes sense.
No, it totally does. Because it's when you don't acknowledge it, it'll just come up again in a different way. And you're going to keep going through whatever with that feeling, with that pattern, with that mindset. But I love how you said that. That was expressed beautifully.
Thank you. Wait, also, quickly, how did you stay there for 8 months?
No, I know. We moved on from that. I think it goes back to everything. Everything kind of happens. It was not planned. I was supposed to go for 2 months, and I packed for like 1 month. So that was, I had some like crazy, I had to learn a lot of lessons stretching out, living out of a suitcase for 8 months, basically, and being there. There was also some issues with like, I ended up getting promoted to a manager position, so that's why I stayed. I did the work trade for 2 months, was supposed to return home. Then I had some stuff at home where I was like, I don't know, I just kind of chose me, and I was like, we're just going to stay. We're going to ride this out. Because I was offered a paid position, basically like the free accommodation, the free 3 meals, and they were going to pay me to do marketing, which is something I love in terms of the creative side. And I love the place, and I did love the mission of like bringing people in for their own retreat. So I felt like, let me just try it. It goes back to what you were saying, where if you don't like it, you can leave. If it's not meant for you, you're not trapped. And I said, if I left and went home and didn't take up this position, this offer, I would regret it. So I took it, ended up staying. I stayed until May. I came back to New York for like a few weeks to visit. I came back like the 1st of June, and then I stayed all of June. I was there in July, and then I ended up coming back. I still work for them. I just work remotely. And so I'm going back again now because I've been doing marketing, but I need to shoot some content and do a lot of things over there for that. So it's going to be cool going back and just doing solely marketing, because the people-pleasing thing, when I took the job, I was offered just to do the job. My hours would be the job. And I don't know why, but I was like, no, I'll do the job and I'll do the work trade. So I was doing the kitchen, I was doing the garden, I was teaching yoga classes, I was running the marketing channels, I was taking pictures, I was leading meetings, I was doing so much.
My gosh, Amanda.
But not a lot. And not a lot of but yeah, so that was right before literally you came, and I started to personally go through the transformation and see it almost like manifested in the people around me, to like say no to things or like pick my boundaries. And now I'm just doing the marketing, so when I go back, I can I heard this, did Kayla say this? Kayla might actually said this. Sometimes you like so many things or so many alleyways, but if you really just like turn your body and face one way and go down one route and put all your energy into that, it's going to come out so much better than you putting 10% into a billion things.
I love that.
So I feel like that's what I'm going into it now, is I can finally give all of my intention, all of my creative ability, my effort into creating, which is what I love to do, and doing photography and doing videography, and I do like organizing things, a little bit of my Virgo Mercury in there, but like organizing shoots and all that. So I'm excited for that. That's what I'm going to be doing when I go back. And I did agree to take on like 1 yoga class a week or 2 because I enjoy that too. But I was overworking myself so much, and I needed to do all of that because if I didn't do it, I would never have learned. It had to get to that point because I wasn't making changes.
No, and I'm so excited for you that you're going to like go back and like be able to focus solely on that. Also, something when you were saying, we were texting and you were like, I'm going back to Hawaii, and you said something about how like you really need to reconnect with nature, and I was like, yes, honestly, same. Like being away from Hawaii right now, like my body is like jealous. So like I don't know. I guess I just want to hear like your perspective on like how you feel where you like at home versus Hawaii, and how maybe you can like bring that feeling of, I would just describe it as like aliveness and just a connection with the earth, and like, yeah, how you're looking forward to that and how you miss it or all that.
Yeah. And one thing I've also had to learn, this has been something in my journal, and it's really true for anybody who's listening about this. Sometimes I would be like, I'm only going to be happy if I'm on this beach in this place.
Yes.
Or like I did have a lot of struggle for the first maybe 2 weeks because I had the logic and then I had my heart, and my logic was like, you're fine. But then my heart was like, no, I want to be like the way of life that I was living. It was a really hard transition to come back to New York City from being literally living in the middle of the jungle. I could walk around barefoot. My feet were so gross. My feet were so calloused. Thick. Because I was walking barefoot everywhere.
Amanda, that came up yesterday in my dance class. We danced outside, and I was barefoot, and I looked down, my feet were dirty, and it brought me so much joy. And I told my friend, I was like, my feet looked like this every day in Hawaii.
Oh my God. There was no point in doing nails. I've been doing my nails since I was 14, like getting gel, which I should probably stop. I don't think that's too good for you. But I was getting gel, and then I couldn't do it out there. I had no access. I didn't have a car, for anyone who's listening, for the first like 3.5 months. So I couldn't do anything which is also something to think about if you're thinking about doing a work trade in a place where you're not going to have a car. There's a lot of luxuries that are small that we don't think about. So like there were a lot of things I didn't have access to. I had access to like the supermarket in town. And that's about it. I found that my main struggle coming back was I was thinking it's separate. Everything I learned was separate. It was out there. Yes. It's not with me anymore.
I love that.
So I started to literally what can I do now? Because hating where I am is not going to get me where I want to be. And that was almost like a statement I kept telling myself. The more I live in lack, I live in disdain of where I am, that's just going to make everything worse for future me and present me, which is all you ever have. So why am I going to want to be upset? What can I do now? I have a yard. So I've started to bring my work outside into the yard. I would take my shoes off and stand in the dirt. And yeah, it's not lava rock on the cliff of an ocean, and I'm not dancing on a field with a bunch of people. But I started static dancing in my bathroom every morning. I have a playlist. I'll share it.
Please do.
No, it's the best thing. I wake up, I put these headphones in. I'm deaf. I can't hear anybody. And then I put on a static dance, and I like oil pull. So it has to be like 10 minutes. So I'll oil pull and do my skincare, and I'm just dancing in the mirror, which is something I would have never done like 2 years ago. And it makes me feel so like, ah.
Dance is absolutely amazing. I even danced in my bedroom last night. And so I also relate to you, like even being in Worcester. I actually thought about Amar, and he was like, once you see the beauty, like you won't need to be in Hawaii to see it anymore. And I think that's so true. Like I was sitting outside. I'm living in a college house that was a frat house for like ever. Okay, so let's just paint that scene.
You gotta sage it.
And bro, I know. I was sitting in my driveway with like a plastic lawn chair, on the cement, and literally right before this. And I was so happy because I felt the sun on my body. I saw a fucking squirrel. He was so cute. I was like thinking, I just really thought about Amar because I was like, I am seeing so much beauty in Worcester, Massachusetts. Like I don't need to be in Hawaii. Do I want to? Yeah, of course. It's like gorgeous. But I think what you're saying is such a good lesson of like, you can take that here too, and where you are right now.
It's so true. One of my bullet points, I have like sentences. One of them just says Amar. Because he gave so much advice. I was like, I just put his name down.
Okay, what are your two? Because I could think. Okay, the quote I just said, and then one other one is what he told me, that there's no wrong decision. Those two really stuck with me. Do you have anything from him that really stuck with you?
Yeah, one of them, he sent it in the Ohana chat too. So I drove him to the airport, and
yes,
it's so good. When I drove him to the airport, we were just, I was asking his whole experience. I didn't want to talk. I was like, speak. Because everything he says is so good. I was like, I'm just listening. Like, go. And
go.
I've driven so many people to the airport. That was one thing. Living there for 8 months, the amount of people that came in and out, and you get very close to people in communities. You're with them every single day. College is like that. When you're with them all the time, and then you break, and it's like weird. Your body's not used to change.
So weird.
I went through so many people. I had roommates, I had friends, and then they leave, and I've only seen 2 of them in the run of this year since. So I was actually asking him, I was like, I already mentioned it. I mentioned, like, it's crazy, I never get used to it. It's so sad. You get so close to people and they leave. And then he mentioned this quote where goodbyes aren't actually sad. They're only sad when you see things in a physical sense. Like somebody's body might not be where you are, but the things they taught you, the energy that we have, we're all connected in a way. We're always connected. It could be on any plane too. It doesn't just have to be like where we are on Earth, but you're always connected to people, and you're connected through them from the things they taught you, or the lessons you learned, or the experience you shared. Like, nothing's going to sever that. That's always with you. And energetically, you are them and they are you, when you remember that type of topic. I don't know. It's just so soothing that, like,
I love that.
It's just a physical, like, the physicality of it may not be there, but the person is there. They're always with you.
Totally.
And I was just
remember when he sent that.
So good.
When he sent that, I screenshotted it, I think. And
Me
I
too.
was like, I'm keeping this for the rest of my life. Like, this is from the heart.
Yeah. That was one of my favorite lessons. I wrote that down literally from quotes because, we got some questions on Instagram about this. And one of the questions that somebody asked was to share any profound experiences that we had with people while we were there, which is why I just wrote Amar.
Amar. I just feel like even when he left and we had, also, I think this is important to add, like, the place that we were at, we had weekly Ohana meetings, and Ohana means family. So every week we would have a meeting. Amanda would lead it, as well as, like, the other managers. And we kind of would just, like, check in, talk about the upcoming guests, and just have a space for, like, open communication when certain things aren't working, what is working, all that stuff. Just, like, a really supportive place to talk about that. But whenever someone was leaving, we only did this a few times, but I just, like, shared basically with Amar, like, what he meant to me. And when you have, there's certain feelings that you just remember because they're so strong. I remember that moment so vividly. I was sitting there. I closed my eyes because sometimes that just helps me turn my brain off. And I really just got in my body and I spoke from the heart, and I could have cried. I didn't, but just the effect he had on me and the way he made me feel, the energy he brought into the room was unlike anything and anyone I've ever met.
Truly. And people would say it. We would meet new people, and, like, he would walk away, and people would be like, is it just me, or is he, like, pure light? Like, that guy is such a wonderful being.
Dude, I remember looking at him the first time I met him, and I was like, I've never seen somebody glow from the inside like he does.
He's just so... This episode is just titled Amar.
No, literally. Like, this is the Amar fan club.
He's truly one of the coolest people I ever met. And when people they're so kind inside that, like she's saying, you glow. Like, his physical being was just so enjoyable to be around. And he listened. Like, the conversations you would have were true conversations. Like, you could speak and he would he reminded me of like Jay Shetty, how Jay Shetty interviews.
Yes.
Like, he really listens and then formulates questions, or like, I don't know. There was one time, do you remember I got upset when we were driving one time because I was stressed out about something. We were supposed to meet people, and then the timing gave me like anxiety, and the people never ended up meeting us. And I remember just being like anxious in the car, and we pulled over, and Amar had a flute, and he like sat down and played the flute with me. And it worked. He had me sit in grass and play the flute and like ground. And then I shifted. Like, I was like, wow. It was just so cool.
That's such a good word, shift. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I literally connected with the earth. I felt like stuff came like I transmuted the energy, you know, but I became present.
Totally.
And I feel like becoming present. Most of our anxiety and our stress comes from past and future. But when you really ground using whatever, in that sense, it was music. We used music and sitting with each other and sitting outside, and it shifted. Yeah.
Totally. And I feel like Amar is such a beautiful mirror and like lesson for like who we can be and just how I want to make people feel, you know, because like I'll never be Amar, and that's beautiful, and he'll never be anyone but himself. But like it was just, I think it was honestly just, Amanda, what is one final lesson you would like to share with our audience about Hawaii and what you took away from that experience?
Okay. I wrote down some bullet points, so maybe I can read them or just quickly.
Yes, please.
I won't go too long on each topic. I just want to so the first thing is that things will come up. Everybody that I met, things are going to come up. Things were bought up for people while they were out there, but it was really inspiring to see everybody going through it. That sounds so mean. Everyone was going through it. I'm so inspired. But it was cool because it highlights the fact that self-transformation, sometimes there is like a shadow side to it, and it's okay. And it was authentic to see other people going through it. But also, I feel like we've been talking a lot about that. You can be happy, like there was a beauty of being there, but there was also a beauty of doing like the self-discovery work. So I just noticed everybody had that. The second thing was appreciating simple things, like having a car, having that freedom at your disposal to go anywhere. Our toilets were outside. They were flushing toilets, but they were facing the jungle. And 10 to 12 other people at certain times could be wanting to use the bathroom. So it was living with people again, getting used to that situation. I lived in a personal cabin at one point. I had 2 roommates at one point. I had a roommate that was a 70-year-old woman at one point who thought a cat stole her phone and tried to set up a sacrifice for him. So like, you learn your personal space. One thing I did take was the way I respect the land came with me. Compost. We were composting everything. You're separating plastics and recyclables and all of that. I feel like I brought that back over here, or like just having care when it comes to things. It followed me. And then it really opened my eyes, almost like you were saying in your experience at Kahana Beach, like the nude beach that we went to where everyone's just being really authentic. That, the way people lived, people had homesteads. They were living off-grid. They were growing all their food themselves. It just like opened my eyes that life can be totally different than what we grew up thinking it could be. Like, there's a totally different way to live, and I was totally inspired, and people were being authentic, and reminded me that some things you learn is just society telling you stuff. And then finally, the skills, like the physical skill sets. Like, I know how to cook all these vegan dishes, and I know how to crack coconuts with a machete, and I can plant things, like all of that stuff. So those are just spitballing, like lessons that changed me. Do you have any that like shaped you or stand
100%,
out?
100%. I would not be here if it wasn't for Hawaii. I would not have a microphone in my hand. I would not be starting my own podcast. I would not be, I feel like, just stepping into what I've known in my heart and my soul that I've been wanting to do for 8+ years now. I think Hawaii really was like a wake-up call where no one's going to save me. No one's going to create the life I want. That's up to me. And so, yeah, now I feel like I'm really just stepping into my power, stepping into my heart space, and not being afraid to be myself and follow like what I'm here to do and follow that calling. So I'm super grateful for Hawaii in that sense because, yeah, I would not be in this moment if it weren't for that.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, of course. It was so good to talk with you.
I don't even know. I feel like we could have gone another hour too. This was just so from the heart. I loved it.
From the heart. Me too. I agree.
Yeah. And I hope anybody listening can get something out of this. We can leave our socials as well. Yeah. They'll be in the description for the episodes. Perfect. And they'll also, do you want to share your Instagram? And I can.
Yeah, my Instagram is just my name, Kate Babineau. It's kind of hard to spell my last name, but Amanda will put it in the description.
It'll be there. We're all good.
TikTok there, yeah.
But feel free, DM us any questions you have about the specific experience or any lessons, whether it be travel, things we learned, or anything. I just want to chat.
If I got a DM, I would literally cry. Like, I love to connect with people. Like, please let me just be your friend. Like, that is like what I literally love. And a job application, they were like, what do you like to do? I was like, I like to talk to people.
I like to be friends.
Grade, I was a social butterfly. Like, please come talk to me. Oh, that would make my day. So yeah, love that.
And Kate's truly the way. Do you know how people can be witty, where they come up with humor quick? I feel like you come up with all these big philosophical ideas. They filtered through your brain and out of your mouth in the best way so quickly. Like, you can listen and format things so well, so quickly. And I'm always in awe. Like, she's a great person to talk to.
So are you, Amanda. Thank you so much for that compliment. And so is Amanda. You're honestly so inspiring to me in the way you travel, the way you post on social media. So it's so awesome to have a friend like you.
I know. I just feel like so nice.
Same.
And thank you again for listening, everybody. If you need help with any of the resources, again, reach out to us. If you're curious specifically about the work trade that we did, which is Kurpal Meditation and Ecological Center on Big Island, Hawaii, I am a manager there. And I can totally help you out in regards, if you have any questions about the specific work trades, I can get you in contact with anybody who is in that department for volunteering if you want to do that. So you can message the actual Instagram. We are on Instagram, KMAC Hawaii. So that's spelled KMEC Hawaii. This isn't part of my job. They don't pay me for this. I'm just truly saying, if you're interested in doing a work trade there, feel free to shoot us a DM. I can get you in contact with anybody. I can give you some voice memos. Any questions you have, I'm your girl. I'll help you out. So you can contact either me or Kate, or you can hit us up at KMAC Hawaii. Again, all of the links will be in the description below. And if you got this far in the episode, which is the end, I know that this might be something on your mind. Maybe it's not even doing a work trade, but whatever that calling is that you do have it for a reason. If you're going to take something from this episode, know that you have this passion for a reason. If other people can do it, you can do it too. Again, it does not have to be this work trade. It could be anything in the world that you're feeling drawn to. Lean into it. It's there for a reason, and this is your sign. Finally, some little updates. If you are following me on Instagram, which is Happy Holistic Hippie, we are doing weekly Sunday chakra yoga classes. So we are on to the heart chakra already, which is crazy. I have all the recordings on my page. So if you want a free yoga class, I have all of the chakras listed on my page. You can easily see which one is the IG live yoga class because it's just the color of the chakra. So feel free to check out the Instagram for those classes. They are every Sunday at 9:30, but going forward, there's a change. I am back in Hawaii by the time you're listening to this, and I am going to have to move the chakra yoga classes to Saturday mornings because Sunday mornings don't work for me over there. There's something going on those mornings that I can't stick to the 9:30 timing. So it will be at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time on Saturday mornings, because that's going to be around 2 p.m. for me, and I can do that on Saturdays. So just change there. It'll be 9:30 Eastern Standard Time for the next few weeks, we're going to be doing the heart chakra, throat chakra, moving up to third eye and the crown. It's a free class on IG Live. So all you got to do is tune in, and we get to explore different yoga practices each week. So feel free to join. That's what's up and coming. I might do some other live events while I'm in Hawaii, but I'm not too sure because the time zone is kind of difficult to work with sometimes. But yeah, hit me up on Instagram. I just end everything with that because I literally love talking to you guys.